Hello, this is day 12 of our Advent devotion using our Jesse tree. As we remember stories of the Old Testament and God's work with God's people through the Old Testament to the time of Jesus' birth at Christmas, remembering that Jesus is the branch of Jesse's tree, Jesse the father of David. Prophets foretold the Messiah would come from the line of David, and as Christians we believe that Jesus is that descendant of David foretold in the prophecies of the fulfillment of Scripture, come to save the world. We've been talking a little bit about Moses and how the people are now in the desert, freed from slavery in Egypt. They've received the 10 Commandments from God to guide their life together as community. And they're going to spend some time in this wilderness. But their goal is to get to a place called the Promised Land. And it is the land that was promised to Abraham. So we're going to back up and we're going to go to the 17th chapter of Genesis. Again, reading out of the Message translation of the Bible. When Abraham was 99 years old, God showed up and said to him, "I am the strong God. Live entirely before me. Live to the hilt. I'll make a covenant between us, and I'll give you a huge family." Overwhelmed, Abram fell on his face. Then God said to him, "This is my covenant with you. You'll be the father of many nations. Your name will no longer be Abram, but Abraham, meaning that I'm making you the father of many nations. I'll make you a father of fathers. I'll make nations from you. Kings will issue from you. I'm establishing my covenant between me and you, a covenant that includes your descendants, a covenant that goes on and on and on, a covenant that commits me to be your God and the God of your descendants. And I'm giving you and your descendants this land where you're now just camping, this whole country of Canaan, to own forever, and I'll be their God." So that's what God promised to Abraham back in Genesis. So now some time has transpired. 400 or 500 years has transpired, and the people are, the Hebrew people are making their way from slavery in Egypt across the desert to the Promised Land. And so Moses decides to send out a scouting party to check out this land and see what might be there. So we'll go to the 13th chapter of Numbers. God spoke to Moses, "Send men to scout out the country of Canaan that I am giving to the people of Israel. Send one man from each ancestral tribe, each one a tried and true leader of the tribe." And then it goes on to list them. If you'll remember, the tribes of Israel are the sons of Jacob, and there are 12 of them. So the 12 tribes of Israel. And then we're going to skip a little bit here. I'm not skipping around that much. I'm going to go over here a little bit. Okay. When Moses sent them off to scout out Canaan, he said, "Go up through the Negev and then into the hill country. Look the land over, see what it's like. Assess the people. Are they strong or weak? Are there few or many? Observe the land. Is it pleasant or harsh? Describe the towns where they live. Are they open camps or fortified with walls? And the soil, is it fertile or barren? Are there forests? And try to bring back a sample of the produce that grows there. This is the season for the first ripe grapes." With that, they were on their way. They scouted out the land from the wilderness of Zin as far as Rehob toward Lebo Hamath. Their route went through the Negev desert to the town of Hebron, Ahaman, Shishai, and Talmai. Descendants of the giant Anak lived there. Hebron had been built 7 years before Zoan in Egypt. When they arrived at the Eshcol Valley, they cut off a branch with a single cluster of grapes, and it took 2 men to carry it, slung on a pole. They also picked some pomegranates and figs. They named the place Eshcol Valley, Grape Cluster Valley, because of the huge cluster of grapes they had cut down there. After 40 days of scouting out the land, they returned home. They presented themselves before Moses and Aaron and the whole congregation of the people of Israel in the wilderness of Paran at Kadesh. They reported to the whole congregation and showed them the fruit of the land. Then they told the story of their trip. Maybe some of you know a Bible camp song or a Sunday school song about the 12 men who went to spy on Canaan. 12 men went to spy on Canaan. 10 were bad and 2 were good. What did they see when they spied on Canaan? 10 were bad and 2 were good. Some saw giants, big and tall. Some saw grapes in clusters fall. Some saw God was in it all. 10 were bad and 2 were good. So on this expedition, 10 report back of the mighty giants and the unlikelihood of being able to defeat them. 2 report of the goodness of the land and believe that they should go ahead and go to this land that God has promised them, had promised their ancestor Abraham. So this little scouting mission turns out badly for the Israelites because they doubted God. They didn't trust God and God's promise. They put their trust in human efforts and human things. They had to wander in the wilderness for 40 years. The old generation had to pass away and not see the promised land, while Moses and God trained up the younger generation to be God's people in that promised land. So that is our story for today, that promised land of milk and honey. I'm pretty sure they probably didn't have milk cartons then, but a land of bounty, a land that God promised He would provide. And so we're going to put our ornament up on our tree for today. Have a good day.